let's move on to Tartt. You referenced him in the K1 section, that it's not just Jimmy Ward, but also Tartt, because Tartt is a hell of a player in man-to-man coverage, always has been. So, played 7 games this year, which is a good and a bad thing in the sense that the Niners really have been signing too many injured players, but it makes them affordable.
So, yeah.
Is he in or out?
Yeah, so I'm in on him, and that's only because I think he's going to be affordable. And I think he's going to be affordable because he's had the injury issue in the past. There's no two ways of talking about it. How much
can he really ask for?
Right. He's missed games. So because of that, I'm in on it. And I'm thinking because Jimmy Ward had the same injury problem, right? When he was signed, everybody wanted Earl Thomas. They paid Jimmy Ward 1 year, $4 million, which was one of the better decisions they've made in free agency as an organization. I'm thinking they could do the same thing with Jaquiski Tartt. Hope he stays healthy. Hope maybe it has to be a bit more than $4 million because he's a bit more accomplished than Jimmy Ward was at the end of 2018. Because Jimmy Ward didn't really have a positional home, so he didn't have the opportunity to accumulate.
Give him 5. Give him 5.
Right. He didn't. 5. Right.
Yeah.
But Tartt, I think maybe $5-6 million 1 year, and you bring him in because I think that I think based on what I've seen, I'm not convinced that you can go into a season starting Tarvarius Moore at safety. I don't know what the veteran safety market is like. I think that they're best bringing Tartt back, sticking with the Tartt-Jimmy Ward combo at least for 1 more year while they fill other holes on this roster.
And explain to the people watching, because most lay people watch, hey, Tarvarius Moore, he's making plays. He's flying around. What is the difference between what the Niners ask Tartt to do and what the Niners ask Moore to do?
So I think that the big thing is that Tarvarius Moore's assignments are simplified, and it's because Tarvarius Moore, as we've seen, busts
assignments.
He misses assignments and he busts coverages. So for that
Jimmy Ward have everything on their plate, right?
Right. So the thing that I think works against both Jimmy Ward and Tartt is because they both have no real weakness as a player. Like something you can point to. Are they not proficient tacklers? No, they're very good tacklers.
Yeah.
Oh, are they bad in man-to-man? No, they're really good in man-to-man. Are they bad in zone? No, they have good eyes. They study a lot and all of those things. And for that reason, right. So for that reason, what happens to both of them is that it's like, okay, these guys can't do this assignment, but Ward and Tartt can do it. So we'll just make Ward and Tartt take care of those couple things, and we'll let these guys play free and fast so they can't do that. What they did with Tarvarius Moore is they did the opposite. They made other guys take on a bigger load, and they gave Tarvarius Moore more simpler assignments, which then ultimately put him around the ball and allowed him to make plays more. But I think if they want to be multiple in all those things, they can't start Tarvarius Moore ultimately. And I see this, they aren't ball hawks. Well, explain, besides Ed Reed, in my lifetime, I'm not sure exactly what you would constitute and define as a ball hawk.
Yeah, that's a rare skill.
Because Minkah Fitzpatrick is allowed to pick off crossers and they make the backside corner when they play single high safety defense, chase and take the deep zone, does that make him a ball hawk?
Like, I would argue in position to make plays in ways that the other ones aren't.
Right. I mean, he is a playmaker, right? Because he intercepts those passes. But I would argue if you take a very good player like Jimmy Ward, not an average player, take a very good player like Jimmy Ward, and you ask him to do those same type of things, he would have similar ball production. And that's why, go back and watch Jimmy Ward in college. The people thought this guy could run around and make – John Gruden compared him to Earl Thomas. So
true, and he did pick off 10 passes his final year at Northern Illinois. Final thing I want to say real quick about Jaquiski Tartt. Look, if the Niners can get him back on a 1-year deal for $4 million, $5 million, I think that would be just wonderful. It would be terrific, and I'd support it. But they may have some competition. Even though he missed 9 games last year, I'm sure Joe Woods and the Browns would just freaking love him. And they probably, I don't know what their cap situation is, but they have a much cheaper quarterback, so I think it'd probably be easier for them to figure that out. There's also other teams that are good, like Baltimore. Teams that run a lot of man coverage because they pressure would really like a guy like Tartt. So he may have to take a discount to come home, and I don't know if he wants to do that.
Yeah, I first never tell players to take discounts. I don't believe in that. Get whatever you can. The other thing is there's very few safeties like him in the NFL that you can say, well, regardless of what our scheme is, regardless of whatever he can do all those things, right? Like Jamal Adams, Seattle had to adjust what they do and make him a blitzer and all of that. And he's the same exact player that he was with the Jets, but somehow his perception went from being the best safety in the NFL with the Jets to being a guy who can't cover anybody, can't do this, he sucks, he's an edge rusher, he's an outside linebacker. No, he's a really good player. he's a really good blitzer. He just does some things really well, and he struggles at some things. And as long as you can acknowledge that, then you don't ever reach this point where he goes to either being the best safety in the NFL to being, oh, he's so overrated, blah, blah, blah.
There's never been a safety that's had his type of pass rushing production. So he's doing something well.
Yeah, of course. He's explosive. He's a great tackler.
And also a thing about him too, a kind of guy who can get you 8-9 sacks a year and not cost you 11% of your cap. I know they're saying he's very expensive, but honestly, I don't mind paying top dollar for a safety, a corner. The only two positions that are getting crazy in the NFL are DN and quarterback. Those are the ones where it's like, do you really want to pay Joey Bosa 12% of your cap? Like, no, absolutely not. So, I mean, paying DeForest Buckner what he wants, that's not going to cripple you, man. That's 9% of your cap. He's probably worth it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
The bottom line, just to put a bow on this conversation, I'm 100. As long as the price is doable and he's not getting way too much money on other places, I'm 100% in on Tartt. Just because, again, he does so much for this defense that goes unnoticed because he's so good at so many different things.
And as you said at the beginning, the fact that he's been hurt might open the door for the Niners to give him a competitive offer the way they did with Jimmy Ward. Under normal circumstances, 1 year, $5 million might not get it done. But maybe Tartt gets that and says, you know what? I'll come back on this team. We'll run it back. We'll be a top 5 defense. I'll be healthy. And then next year I'll get paid and I can stay here and go somewhere else. It's interesting. He might actually be coming back.